Jakob Schubert has made the first ascent of Project Big at Flatanger in Norway. When it comes to the grade, Jakob has said he is not ready to comment on it just yet. However, estimations are that it is somewhere in the region of 9B plus or 9C. The build up to this ascent has been as long as the route itself. Back in April, Adam Ondra published footage of both Adam and Jakob working the route together. And at the time, it did feel like Jakob had the edge on Adam. Where Adam could only have one go a day, Jakob seemed to be able to manage 2 or 3 good efforts. However, each time he'd get to that crux pumped, unable to do it. But when Jakob started to live stream his attempts 7 days ago, it was pretty clear something was different. He was far more consistent throughout those lower stretches and was arriving at the crux fully engaged. It was on his 6th attempt that he made the successful first ascent. And it's perhaps surprising given how bad the conditions were that day. In an Instagram story, he'd said that because of the rain, it was unlikely he was going to give it a go, but he turned up nonetheless to a mixed conditions at the crag, expecting to find the route wet in its upper reaches. Now, the crux sloper on Project Big is renowned for being a tricky thing to get in good conditions. It's been cited as almost impossible to use in bad conditions when it's either wet or high humidity, or warm. But on the successful attempt, the conditions look super sticky and far above expectations. Perhaps the greatest drama that occurred throughout the ascent was when a hold broke in the upper reaches after the crux had been done. This was a genuine heart-in-mouth moment, and Jakob himself had said that it might have ended his climbing career had he have fallen at that point. At least outwardly, Jakob looked super smooth and super confident throughout, seemingly with energy to spare. But Jakob said a little the opposite. It was the biggest mental battle I've ever had in my career. So nervous, mentally so crazy. I didn't feel so good going into the route, but then I was so much better at the end of the first boulder. After shaking out my arm on the sloper just before the crux, I was incredibly nervous. I don't think I've ever been so scared climbing. Given how much Jakob has done and how decorated a career he's had throughout his competition climbing, this is quite a remarkable statement. It'd be interesting to hear from Jakob as to whether the live streaming process put more stress onto each of those efforts. This, after all, is a very different process to Will Bosey's live streaming on Burden of Dreams, where it was a relatively simple case to live stream, just simply a case of putting your phone in your shoe. On this, there was infrastructure in place. There was rigging, there was ropes, and all sorts of things going on in order to give that surround sound footage. 350,000 people tuned in to watch Jakob's attempt on Project Big. That's a big number. Now, there's a few questions remaining. The first of which is, what grade is it? Which we'll hear more from in the near future, no doubt. The second is, what's he going to name it? Can't be Project Big anymore, as it's no longer a project and it deserves a name. And third and finally, what next? Now, starting with potential repeat ascensionists, Stefano Gazolfi is out there right now trying silence, and it seems like his efforts are going to be directed more towards that, although it was apparent during the live streams from his commentary that he knows a lot about the route and has been on it. Watch this space. Sean Rabitou is also out in Flatanger, and it'd be interesting to see how he converts those Font 9A bouldering skills into the French 9 somethings of Flatanger. The other two obvious contenders are Seb Bouin and Adam Ondra, who've both been on the route. In terms of what next for Jakob, my personal bias would be DNA. It would be great to see him repeat Seb Bouin's 9C in the Verdun, France. It's a route that feels like it has a sense of mystery about it, and I'd love to see him complete the second ascent of that route, preferably confirming the grade. But the only thing that might scupper that is the Paris 2024 Olympics. Jakob was the first person to qualify for the Olympics and will no doubt be looking to peak to win that, to get that elusive gold that he didn't quite make back in Tokyo. So that's it. Project Big is no longer a project. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.